Hey guys, for my next interview, interviewing one of my favorite people in the world, Coach Casey Halstead.
Hello.
He is a man of, wears a lot of hats. He's a coach. He also owns multiple different 10th Planet gyms.
Yep.
He is a great dad
Oh,
and
thank
a good role model to me. So I want to first ask him a little bit about his background. I don't want to ruin the story, but there's an awesome story that inspires me all the time. I hear it over and over, and I like to tell it to other people because it's super inspirational. And it's the story of how Casey left his corporate job and basically went with jiu-jitsu and started living his dream of just living jiu-jitsu as a lifestyle. And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's kind of a long story. I'll try to make it as quick as possible. But maybe about 6 years ago, the company that I was working for, they decided that they were gonna cut about 50% of the staff, and I always thought that I was gonna retire from that company. And then when they started making wholesale changes and just letting people go like 35 years with the company, just automatically were just getting laid off, and their pensions were being basically sold. I decided that I needed to do something different. So I started building the gyms with Ron Turner. It's been about 5 years. I think August 29th is when we opened up 10th Planet Costa Mesa. And then over the course of the next 5 years, the goal was always to be able to quit someday and do it full time. And then, as you know, my wife and I got pregnant, and I took the whole 12 weeks for FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act, so I can bond with my daughter. And on the night before I was supposed to go back to work, I decided I couldn't go back to work anymore, so I went in and quit, basically,
Yeah.
and retired my wife also, and we moved to Vegas, and now we're living the dream.
Yeah, I agree. I love that story. I think that a lot of people in this world are out there doing a job that they're unsatisfied with, and they're afraid to leave it because of financial reasons. You know, what if it doesn't work out, and whatnot? A million different reasons. So my next question is, were you ever afraid, like, if I quit this job and it doesn't work out? You know, what were your biggest fears about making that decision?
Well, so for me, I never had any fears about me being able to provide for my family. Like, that was never an issue. But I've always been able to make money ever since I got out of prison when I was younger. Like, it was just money. I was able to immediately, the day I got out, I had a job and I was just working. And I've always been a very good earner. But there's a fiduciary responsibility. So when I have this business, the gyms, now I have so many people that are depending upon the gyms to provide money. Like Ron Turner also, he's in a pretty good place financially, so I've never really worried. But just recently, Andy Ballmore quit his job, and now he's doing this full time. And so it's like Matt Salinas, Andy Ballmore, some of the other guys. That's where I really feel the pressure, because they are living their whole entire lives just based on the gyms.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was never afraid, because I know I'm going to make it happen. I have the ultimate incentive. I have a wife that I love, and a bunch of kids that I care about and love, and there's no way that I'm going to ever let anything go bad to them. But now I have this responsibility to my partners to produce and make sure that they can take care of their families, and that's really what keeps me up at night. But it's still a good thing, because on the inverse to the pressure, the pressure to provide and make sure that we're expanding and growing, and it is a corporation, so the evil parts of all corporations are running flat. So if we made $1 million last year, if we make $1 million in 2018, we literally failed. We got to continually make more and more money. So the challenge is finding the balance between greed and growth, and that's the real challenge. But the inverse side to that is that I feel great knowing that I've been able to get some guys off the grid already, and now they're actually living the dream too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So, you say that the fact that, Matt or Andy or these guys, that's, might be a little not a fear, but, it's a concern, and ultimately it's a motivating factor for you. Well, I think because you've done it for me as well, you've led by example. And when someone sees that, that's the best thing, because you can have a dream, but when you actually see someone do that, it's possible. They're close to you. You can go to them for advice. And so I think it's a circle probably for you and for them. You want to keep them, in a good place, and they want to do well too, and they look to you for advice. So I think it's awesome, and that's ultimately what I wanted to tell everybody. It's a very motivating story, and it's in this process, and 10th Planet is growing exponentially. You had 10th Planet Costa Mesa initially, and now how many gyms are there?
We have 4 in Orange County. We have 10th Planet Costa Mesa, Irvine, Buena Park, and Orange. Then we have 10th Planet Tucson, 10th Planet Lombard, which is a suburb of Chicago, 10th Planet Las Vegas, and then we had North Vegas that's temporarily closed, and I'm relocating that to Fremont Street downtown.
Oh.
So we're gonna have a 10th Planet downtown. And then Classic Muay Thai, which is another one that Tyler and I own together. You were talking about, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I just wanted to point out that when 10th Planet Costa Mesa opened, what year was it?
It was 5 years ago, so.
Within 5 years, I lost count of how many gyms you said. You heard it, that many gyms has come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing, and it's a testament that regardless of being afraid to leave your corporate job or a job that you're comfortable with or something that you've never done before as a career. And how old were you? Sorry to throw you under the bus.
Okay.
How old were you when you did that? When you first started that transition?
Well, I'm 43 now, so I was 38, I think, when we started, and I was 40 when I left my job. And when we opened, we actually had been running a gym for 6 years. We had Subtech MMA before we switched to 10th Planet. And we had 12 students when we opened 10th Planet Costa Mesa. And in 5 years, we've been able to develop that much talent and create this much traction. So in the next 5 years, actually I have a meeting with Eddie Bravo next month. He's coming out to Vegas for Tony Ferguson's fight. We're gonna sit down, and I have a next 5-year plan written out already. And I plan to have 24 locations in the next 5 years, because the growth is going to be exponential now. Like it's a multiplying factor, because I look at it like part of like my past experiences in corporate America were always to develop talent. That was always my job. So very quickly, Budo Matt was a white belt when I first met him, and I was like, this is my guy. He's going to be the guy that's going to move this company into the future. I'm already old. I'm looking for someone who can replace me. It's going to be Matt and Andy. And so, literally the first day I saw Matt, I was like, this is the kid. This is the one. And I've been investing in him ever since. And now he's a brown belt, and he's got a lot of season, and he's a competitor. And so if we did all this with barely any talent to start, and no developmental program, and now that I've been developing talent for the last 5 years, you're gonna see the growth really pick up over the next 5.
Yeah.
To circle back, what you were talking about now is like seeing somebody do something is like the biggest lesson that you can have. One of my best talents is that I don't have to read the book to extract the knowledge. I like to find people that are doing it, and then I emulate them, and I let them mentor me. And so, like, just one of the biggest obstacles that I had to overcome, I remember being a younger man in my 20s, and I always wanted to make my own business. I always did. And I'd be walking, like, in a strip mall, and I remember thinking to myself, I would look in the windows at the businesses, and I would go, man, that, like, the guy that owns this business is just different than me. Mm-hmm. We're not the same.
Yeah. Like,
this is a businessman. I'm just a piece of shit. My whole life I heard from my dad, you're going to be the guy that re-tips shoelaces. You're going to be the guy that stuffs pimentos in the olives. You're going to be the guy that cracks the sunflower seeds. And because I wasn't into school, it just wasn't for me. And I had a lot of learning disabilities growing up, and I would always get lost in school, and I just hated it. I felt like I was in jail the whole time. I would go to school, and I would just be miserable. And my dad just did all this negative. Just my dad's a good guy, but he doesn't know how to parent. You know, we don't know how to parent. We get these children, and we think it's our responsibility to teach them, and it's really the other way around. It's our responsibility to learn from them. They're the most pure things, and so my dad really corrupted my thinking. So I used to walk through these businesses and just think that like they're different. Like I'm down here and they're up here, and so to follow this change of thinking, when I was 25, I bought my first house, and I contacted a real estate agent, and I was trying to buy it in the San Fernando Valley, in the hood, like the ghetto, and I was like, this is where, because the only self-actualization that I could even muster was like, these people look like me. These people, none of them went to college, you know, and we were just kind of like all doing the same thing.
This is where I belong.
And my real estate agent was like, no, let's go up here. And he took me to a place called Castaic. And I went to the neighborhood, and I remember it looked like kind of like a rich white neighborhood. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I don't belong here. Like, but I could afford it though. Yeah. I could have afforded it. And I opted to not go there and buy my house in the ghetto where I lived. House that Abigail was born in, and I just, so then now add like another like maybe 10 years. Chewy, that owns Raw Talent Boxing, I drove him to where 10th Planet Costa Mesa is today, and I was like, hey, we're gonna open this business, and he couldn't see it. He just couldn't see it. He was like, no, I'm cool. I got like 20 students. We're at this gym. I got bags. I don't have to pay for anything. And he was just young at the time, and he just couldn't see it. And I was like, no, man, here we people do want us to do it. Like I started changing my mindset, and now I realize that I can do anything, and it doesn't matter. There is no caste system. You're not born into one level, and the first thing you need to do is you need to realize that you are important, and you need to realize that somebody does want what you're selling, and then you got to just have the balls to go and do it. And so it took me literally from birth until 35 years old, when we opened 10th Planet Costa Mesa, for me to change the thinking that, I mean, when I say that my dad said I was going to be the pimento stuffer and olives, he used to just drill me. Like, you don't go to school, you're not getting good grades, you don't take it seriously, you're going to be a shoelace retipper. And he would just bang that into my head, and I really had zero self-worth. But he wasn't doing it to be mean. He just didn't know how to motivate me. Yeah. But it literally took me my entire life until I was 35 years old to just get rid of that. Yeah. And even then, I was very scared. My wife and I were walking back from Knott's Berry Farm on a Friday night. We just went down there to get something to eat. And I felt this, you know, when you're going to fight and the cold just comes over your whole body, and you're just like, whoa, what am I doing? Yeah. And we were walking back from Buena Park. It was like, from Knott's Berry Farm, it was like the week after we opened 10th Planet Costa Mesa, and I got this terror inside of me. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, I'm committed to a 3-year lease, and it was terrifying. But you know what? You can't take money with you. You got to just go. Yeah, so that's it. Change your thinking. You can do anything. You can be anybody.
If you are not motivated by that, you're not listening. I get chills when I hear the story. I love it so much. Well, you gave us a little bit about your background, and I know our videos, I knew it was going to go long, and that's just like the first question I had for you. But so Casey has worked with tons of high-level athletes, specifically a lot of high-level UFC fighters. Do you want to name a couple? And then secondly, I just want to know if there's any like favorite stories you have.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I mean, obviously I work with Ashley Evans-Smith and Carla Esparza, and I found myself working with a lot of women lately. Some of the other notable fighters that I've worked with are like Mark Munoz. I was with him for his last 2 fights. Tony Ferguson, I was with him for 6 fights. Chito Vera, you know, I mean, the list just goes on and on. But I have like a whole bunch of favorite stories, and I don't work with fighters that I can't find a reason to love. So like, if I'm working with you, it's because I love something about you, you know. And the reality is this: like, every time we travel, we're literally making this connection, and to me that's where like all the magic is. Like, I don't give a shit about the winning and the losing. I've never have. Like, I don't think at the end of the day we're gonna be defined by wins and losses. To me, it's about the process and the journey, and we're collecting moments in time. And you know, many years ago, I took the focus off of making money. Like, I don't care about making money anymore. I care about creating moments in time. And so, like, for me, to answer your question directly, every time I travel, I find something amazing, and I take something home. And I remember in Pittsburgh, I could remember when you were walking out, and I just, for a brief second, maybe like they called your name and we were going out, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, holy shit, this is my friend, and she's totally living her dream. And the stress and everything, I just saw it evaporate, and you just went. And those are the kind of moments that give me the courage and the drive to continue doing what we're doing, is because it's for those moments. It's not the fight camp, it's not the winning and the losing. There's a line in the sand, and you can do it or you cannot do it. And you always cross the line and just go do it. And to me, that's what life is. That's the shit that we're made of. That's the real shit right there. And you know, and then that was a huge win for you. That was huge.
Yeah.
And then the Veronica Macedo win, that was huge. And then we've had some lessons that we've learned in the last couple of fights.
Yeah.
And you know, in the grand scheme of things, when you're 65 years old and hopefully by then you have grandkids and you're just sitting back drinking sweet tea on the porch, you know, the winning and the losing, none of that shit's gonna matter. Everyone's gonna look at you like, fuck, grandma, you did it. Mom, you know what I'm saying? And that's the magic. And then of course, you know, Chito knocking out Brad Pickett on 10 days notice in England.
Yeah.
And the backstory to that was he had elbow surgery and hadn't even been in the gym for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, literally the day he was going back to the gym for the first time to train, he was driving to the gym, he was parked outside, we got the call, and he said yes. Mm-hmm. And then you got like guys like Humberto and then also Alex Reyes, who took a fight on 3 days notice against a savage.
Yeah.
And those are the things that's like, it's like, if you have friends that are doing amazing shit, it's easy for you to do amazing shit.
Yeah.
And so those are the things, you know, it's not the wins and the losses, it's bravery, it's facing your fears, it's courage, it's making the connection. I mean, our times when we travel are like the best. Like, I mean, I am away from my family, so it's kind of like but then also when I get home, I just love them.
It's so that much more rewarding. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, it's interesting because you talk about enjoying the journey, and I always enjoy the journey, but I'd say the last 2 fight camps, on a personal level, you get so focused on the outcome, a win or a loss, that you forget to enjoy the journey. And especially after a loss, you know, like when you don't get your immediate return on investment, you're like, well, what did I get out of that? If you lose, if you would have been enjoying the journey and living in the moment a little bit more, that loss is not so bad, because it's not like everything was hanging on that one moment, that one win or loss. And then if you win, you know, you enjoyed the journey, you enjoyed the fight camp, and you won. It's great. So for me personally, you know, a lot of fighters were very analytical, were very mental. A lot of high-level athletes, I believe, are like that. It's good to refocus yourself and do exactly what you said, you know, just enjoy the journey and live in the moment a little bit more. And that's a lesson that I continue to have to remind myself every single fight camp. And I've got Casey to remind me of it. So, all right, I guess I want to finish up. I'm extremely inspired by your story, what you do right now. I can see you grow as a person, as a father, as a coach, and you're helping other people grow as well. And I don't see a limit for you, but if you had to, you know, look at a crystal ball, where do you think you'll be in about 10 years?
Well, in 10 years, let's see, Abigail's 15, going on 16.
His oldest daughter.
Derek's 16. In 10 years, that makes him 25. I hope by that time, I have one grandkid, and
no pressure, Abby.
I'll probably be living up in Lee Canyon, just outside of Vegas, in a little tiny house off the grid. Still close enough to be able to get to the airport and travel, and it's not too remote, so it's easy to get around still. Definitely in 10 years, I will only be working with a couple of people. It'll be very selective, and it'll be just people that I love. I mean, that's pretty much what I do now, but I'm gonna, at some point, I'm gonna need to like kind of slow down and let like other people kind of handle some of the work, but right now, like I was just doing this the other day. I was like going through everybody that I work with, and I fucking love them all, and there's just no way that as long as you guys will still have me, I'm gonna go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to cut a roster if everybody on the roster is awesome.
It's cool, and that's the really rad thing about like what we got going on is everybody is genuinely good people, and if I can circle back, I know we got to cut this short, but the thing you said about like enjoying the process of your fight camp and not focusing too much on the results is exactly, for the people that don't fight and they don't understand, that's exactly what I was telling you about when I said that I took the focus off of making money. Mm-hmm. What if your whole entire life you were focusing on making money, and then at the end of your life you didn't make what you thought you made, what you should have made? Does that mean that you failed at life? So if you take the focus off of making life and you put the focus on making incredible relationships and doing incredible things and living an awesome life and being true to yourself and your passions, then the results of the money doesn't matter. And I also think that if you live that way, you will make money. Mm-hmm. Like it'll just come. Yeah. And so how does that relate to you and to fighting? It's like, you got to remember, if you're fighting 4 times a year, that's an 8-week fight camp 4 times, right? So what is that? That's 20, 12, 16, 30, 32 weeks out of 52 weeks that you're literally focusing only on winning. That's way more than half of your life in a year. And that means, how can you be happy doing that? You can't be happy doing that. So you have to, if you're going to be fighting and you're going to dedicate 8 weeks, 4 times a year to fighting and weight cutting, you have to love the journey. And if you don't love the journey, you need to figure out how to love it. Mm-hmm. And if you can't figure out how to love it, you got to switch and do something else.
Exactly.
Because then if you become only results oriented, you're going to just be set up for a lot of sad times, Yeah. It's just not healthy.
Well, I think that is an awesome note to leave off on. And just to reiterate, if you want to make money, don't focus on making money. If you want to win the fight, don't focus on winning the fight. And I'm going to throw a book out there that I just read that is exactly what we just talked about. It's called The Go-Giver. I don't know, have you ever read it?
No.
It's an amazing book. It's a quick, easy read. Sometimes the best thing to do is to not focus on that one thing. And so just read The Go-Giver. It's a great book and basically talks about what Casey lives his life by. So thank you guys. Casey Halstead, where can we find you on social media?
Every social media platform is Coach Casey 10. So if you want to find me on Instagram, Coach Casey 10, Twitter, Coach Casey 10, YouTube, Coach Casey 10, Facebook page, Coach Casey 10. And if you guys ever have any questions or you want to connect, I do respond to all of my messages. Find one of those platforms, message me. I would love to have a dialogue with you. So just reach out. I'm down to always develop people that want to get better and want to improve their lives and maybe form a business. As you know, my wife's an attorney, and we don't. That's one of the things that we love to do is we love to just help people develop shit. That's like my mission is to see people just living. Yeah.
So if you want any advice on business, jiu-jitsu, or just need some motivation, Coach Casey 10. Don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel. This is the reason I'm making my YouTube channel right now. With fighters and athletes, usually I'll give them a chance for sponsors, but I know that Casey owns another business we didn't talk about called Nuwaza Apparel. And if you want to check out Nuwaza Apparel, what is Nuwaza?
NuwazaApparel.com.
Yeah, it's just really cool, jiu-jitsu based. All right.
That's one of our hats.
Yeah, so check that out if you like cool jiu-jitsu gear as well.
Also, keep an eye out on toe hold sandals, dope flip-flops. They're handmade, all leather. I don't know what the guarantee is going to be on them, but probably like 15 years guaranteed. Check it out. Toe hold, like the toe hold sandals.
And that's it. Thank you guys.
Peace.